I was at a friend's house and I called up my brother and I said, listen, I've got my period and I need you to buy some pads for me. And my friend was appalled.
A woman is not impure, she's not dirty. She can go to the kitchen, she can cook, she can obviously go to the religious places and pray.
Do your cycles really sync with your friends? Women's health, which is such an important topic today, needs to be spoken more about.
There is a surge of hormones which happen in a young girl's body. There are body image issues. She's having periods, suddenly the breasts are developing, suddenly she's getting hair at all funny places.
What is PMS? Why is it something that's misunderstood?
It's not easy to be pregnant, it's not easy to be delivering, it's not easy to be awake all night, to be breastfeeding. It could even become more severe, which is postpartum psychosis, where she tries to harm herself or tries to harm the baby also. Pregnancy is not a disease. You don't need to be on bed rest for this.
As a mom of a young boy, I think it's so important for us sons to be educated. Most young girls would get their periods while they're in school, and the boys will always turn and giggle about it or snicker about it or have a comment. Is there a right age to get pregnant?
So that's $1 million question.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming in today. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you very much, Masoom. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. You know, your work is incredible. And what I absolutely love is that you're shedding light on women's health, which is such an important topic today. So I'm going to dive right in and start with asking you, what is PMS? Why is it something that's, misunderstood?
Women, we are different from men. We are biologically different. We undergo so many changes in our lives. And plus today, because of work pressures, women have to undergo a lot more. Plus on top of this, there are so many taboos around women's health. Internet actually adds more confusion to this. So I'm glad today we'll be able to differentiate between the myth and the fact. And like you so rightly said, first let's talk about the PMS. So PMS, what is commonly known as premenstrual syndrome. This is in fact real, contrary to what people believe that it is in a woman's health. People think, she must be going through those days of the month. She must be PMSing. People make it like a little like a mockery, but it is actually not true. PMS is real. So women who have PMS, they typically tend to have a lot of mood changes, emotional, physical, and even behavioral disturbances, which happen just before the periods. And you would be surprised to know that almost 50% women face some kind of symptoms of PMS sometime during their lifetime. 50% is a lot, which means 1 in 2 women.
So not everyone goes through it.
Not
it
everyone.
Only affects.
Yes. So there are some group of women who are likely to have more PMS,
And some to have milder symptoms.
Exactly. In fact, PMS is, it can be mild, it could be moderate, it could be severe, it could be sometimes so severe that it actually needs, a psychiatric intervention. This is known as PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So a woman may face a lot of symptoms ranging from mood symptoms, emotional symptoms, physical symptoms. So she may feel very irritated, jittery, she feels angry, she feels overtly sensitive, emotional. She feels like crying at the slightest provocation. She may feel bloated, heavy. There could be breast tenderness, there could be headaches. She can't seem to sleep. There could be appetite changes. Some women don't want to eat, while some women report eating a lot. So, it can vary in severities. And in case somebody is suffering from PMS, how do we diagnose PMS? The history is very typical. The symptoms start typically 7 to 10 days before the periods and typically, miraculously vanish within 7 days after the periods. So that's very, very typical.
how does a woman know when she should be alerted, right? When she knows it's a more severe case of PMS. What are some symptoms?
So in case you feel that you are not your normal self, that's the first step to recognize that there is something wrong. I'm not my normal self. And in case these symptoms are coming every month and they follow a pattern, which means that the symptoms are starting before the periods and they vanish after the periods, it's time to actually visit a doctor. It's time to describe your symptoms. And in case you feel the symptoms are getting severe, which means that you can't concentrate at your work, you can't concentrate on your family, you're constantly irritated, you don't want to work, it's definitely time to seek help.
And why does PMS happen?
Yeah, so surprisingly, we really do not know why it happens. It says that somehow the hormonal changes which happen in a cycle, which means that your estrogen goes up, your progesterone goes up, and then it comes down, it somehow plays up with the neurochemistry at the level of the brain. So we have, this is a little technical, we have certain, chemicals which are released from the brain like serotonin, dopamine. So these hormonal changes, they tend to interfere there.
Probably lowering your dopamine and serotonin.
Yeah, something you can say broadly like that. That is why, when, let's say, for example, a woman is pregnant, she doesn't have these symptoms. When she's on any kind of a birth control pill, typically all these symptoms vanish because all those hormonal changes, they tend to settle down. So it's a very interesting and a very funny thing. But yes, for many women, it's actually real.
And it's been given such a comical and such a almost sarcastic tone in society.
It's very bad, very sad actually.
Would you say, doctor, that women are more susceptible to mental health issues as compared to men?
So worldwide, the incidence of mental health diseases is slightly more in women. Once again, it's not to give any connotation to a bad connotation to this. But we need to understand that as women, we are biologically different from men.
And, I simply come from the perspective that we're currently talking about PMS, which occurs in our menstrual cycle during our periods, which is once a month. Then we've got, when we hit puberty, then when we get pregnant, then when we have premenopause, then when there's menopause. And all of these are life stages in a woman's life that they're all known to have symptoms that affect mental health. There's been conversations around it, and I've been through a few of them, and I can vouch for it myself.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. As women, we undergo a lot. Starting from the time when a girl has periods, there is a surge of hormones, which happen in a young girl's body. There are body image issues, there is so much, she's having periods, suddenly the breasts are developing, suddenly she's getting hair at all funny places. The poor girl doesn't really know what's happening. And then later on when she gets pregnant, then, even during pregnancy, it's actually a roller coaster of emotions. It's really a roller coaster of hormones. And when she, goes into the middle age, then she probably might have PMS. How can we forget even postpartum depression, after the delivery? And then, of course, the menopausal symptoms. So somehow all these hormonal changes, they tend to interfere at the level of the brain, causing all these. And on top of this, today's woman, the modern woman, is working shoulder to shoulder with the men. So this, puts a lot of pressure, and coupled with the fact when there are times in her life when she's, a little biologically sensitive, like puberty, pregnancy, breastfeeding, PMS. So sometimes the symptoms, they tend to go out of hand.
No,
but
absolutely.
It's important.
And I think it's so important to be informed about that, to drive awareness about that. Can you talk to us about hormones and how they affect our body?
So in women, we have two hormones which are very, very important, the estrogen and the progesterone, and they are typically released from two ovaries. Now, two ovaries are small walnut-shaped structures which are present by the side of the uterus. So every month at the beginning of the cycle, few eggs, a bunch of eggs, they start developing in one of the ovaries, and over a period of few days, one lucky egg gets selected to preferentially develop into a dominant follicle, which probably might result in pregnancy. So as these eggs are developing and the dominant follicle grows, now these follicles, they produce a hormone called estrogen. And estrogen prepares the lining of the uterus in anticipation of the pregnancy. Now, by the middle of the cycle, when the ovulation happens, now ovulation is a process by which the dominant follicle ruptures and releases that egg. And now if around the same times, the sexual contact happens, the fertilization happens, then series of great things, they start to happen in the body. Now the follicle releases a hormone called progesterone at this stage, which makes the lining prepare for to be prepared for the pregnancy. And supposing the pregnancy doesn't happen, all this preparation goes waste, estrogen and progesterone levels come down, the lining becomes dead, and it is shed off in form of periods. So I would like to tell you here that, a lot of people have this myth that having a period is something dirty. It is actually not. It is just the periodic growing of the lining of the uterus and shedding of that lining when the pregnancy doesn't happen.
And a part of that process is the release of hormones.
Yes, the hormones, they rise up to a particular level, and when the pregnancy doesn't happen, now the hormones, they come down. And that's when the lining, which was developing in response to those hormones, now dies away. And now it escapes in form of periods.
So what is the relation of hormones with mental health? Because hormones are affecting how women feel and behave and internally feel.
Why does it happen in some women and it doesn't bother other women? We really do not know. But we've seen an association. Somebody who's been struggling with anxiety, depression, who has a family history of all these issues, they tend to have these symptoms more, like PMS, postpartum depression, even postmenopausal symptoms are more with these women. So it's just that how these women are wired. Genetically, some women are programmed like this. But then there is a lot which can be done. Of course, we cannot change our hormones. We cannot change our genetics. But what can we do to make ourselves feel better, to be in better control? That's definitely
so is there
in our hands.
Let's say, is there a way to handle PMS better?
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing is understanding that there is nothing really wrong with me. It's okay to have PMS. That's very, very important. And then secondly, we need to understand that however disturbing or debilitating it may be for some women, it is not something which is serious medically. Now, by that, I don't mean to say that the symptoms are, not important. But I would say nobody dies because of PMS. So don't, think, oh my God, what will happen to me or something like that. So a lot of things can be done physically. First is make sure that you take care of your diet, which means that you eat a balanced diet, eat a diet which is rich in complex carbohydrates, which is low in fats and sugars and caffeine and tea, and obviously no alcohol, no smoking. Make sure that your diet is rich in fruits and vegetables. This is where, you get your all antioxidants from. Your diet is rich in nuts and seeds. This is where you get your omegas, right? Make sure that you are physically very, very active. And I tell this to every woman that being physically inactive is just not acceptable. And in today's world, we are mentally so busy. When I ask my patients, everybody says, oh, ma'am, I'm very busy. I'm very busy. When I really probe, what do you do physically? No, I walk. I cook. I said, where is the physical activity? So all of us think that we are physically active. And as women, it's very, very important for us to be physically active because it balances your hormones, it keeps your heart healthy, it keeps your bones healthy. So being physically active, very important. And third, or rather I would have said first, sleep. It is very, very important.
Let's talk about postpartum depression a bit. It's something that I've recently, I've been in that postpartum phase, and I did feel like there was not enough information about it. So I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Can you take us through it?
So once again, postpartum blues or depression is real, After the delivery, typically the estrogen and progesterone levels, they fall dramatically, drastically.
And that's not in our control.
That's not in our control. They have to fall. And once again, the sudden drop interferes at the level of the brain in some people. Now, for some people, the symptoms could be very mild. People just call it postpartum blues. When a woman is not feeling in her best mood, she feels tired and fatigued throughout the day, she's irritated. While there could be something which is little severe, which is postpartum depression. Now she's in a state where she is not in the mood to talk to people. She, either sleeps a lot or can't sleep absolutely. She feels bloated up and she doesn't even seem to be interested in looking after the baby. This is postpartum depression. While for some people, it could even become more severe, which is postpartum psychosis, where she tries to harm herself or tries to harm the baby also. Now, this kind of a stage definitely needs a psychiatric or a medical intervention as fast as possible.
So there's 3 stages. There's postpartum blues, there's postpartum depression, and then there's postpartum
psychosis.
Yeah. And you'd say the symptoms obviously get more severe with each.
So, at the onset, in case you feel that you're not, once again, feeling in the best of the moods, you're not feeling in control, so please talk to the doctor. A lot can be done at this stage so that the person doesn't reach that stage.
No, absolutely. I remember actually taking my husband through it. And this was even before I delivered. I think the awareness is there amongst the women. For me, it was my sister-in-law who, told me about it. And she said I cried a lot after I had my baby. She built the awareness in my mind, in my brain. She built the awareness that, look, if this happens, don't be alarmed by it. Yeah. Or, and with awareness came the acceptance. Yeah. But I think for me, my next step was to actually make my husband comfortable with it. Because I knew I would need that extra support at that time. Which is why I think the conversation in itself is so important. But I had my first baby. He's almost 2 now. And postpartum was so difficult. It was really, really hard. I would cry at the drop of a hat. And I didn't know why. I was so grateful to have had a healthy baby. And I was constantly reminding myself of that. But the lows was so low, you just don't feel like yourself. I was also really struggling with breastfeeding. Yeah. So that only added to the entire experience, and I think it just crippled me further. And yeah.
I can still see little wetness in your eyes as you talk about it.
Absolutely. So, while I was reading about it, something that I found very surprising, but I've actually witnessed this, is that postpartum, I'd love to hear from you if it's true or not, but it can also go on for a year after you have a baby?
Yeah, in some cases. See, there are 2-3 reasons for this. One is, of course, like I said, some people are genetically more programmed to have these kind of disturbances. And secondly, being a mother is not easy. It's not easy to be pregnant. It's not easy to be delivering. It's not easy to be awake all night, to be breastfeeding. There is so much which is happening.
Yeah.
So you need a lot of support at home, you need understanding, you need physical, mental and emotional support. All of that is needed. So in case that part is lacking, or in case woman is constantly worried, oh, after 3 months, 6 months, I have to join back my work, and she joins her work, it can be difficult. So a good support structure, physical and mental and emotional, around a just delivered woman is extremely important. Of course, coupled with the fact that your diet, physical activity, exercise, supplements, sleep, all that is extremely important.
Can you take us through the symptoms of the blues, postpartum depression, and postpartum psychosis?
So postpartum blues could be simply the blues. You are not really feeling the best of it. You're not in the best mood. Or you may be anxious. You may really not know how to look after your baby, and you can't sleep. While the postpartum depression could be a severe form of it, where you keep crying at the drop of the hat, you can't sleep, or you're continuously sleeping all the time. You don't even want to have a look at the baby. You don't want to really take care of the baby. And you're constantly worried, constantly anxious. So this is what is postpartum depression. And postpartum psychosis is when the things go to extreme, where she's continuously crying. She's trying to harm the baby. She's trying to harm herself. She's trying to blame others. She's in more like a schizophrenic stage.
Behavior.
Yeah.
So, doctor, I felt like something that, this could be a personal experience, but something that really triggered it for me was also so many unwanted opinions.
Yeah.
In this time and in this period, right? There was so much that there's so much unwanted advice on how you need to handle post-childbirth, how the baby needs to be handled. And I feel like this is Indian society and one of the baggages that come along with it. In fact, something that I would say is that for me personally, I was with a pediatrician who I moved on from that pediatrician because I felt like I was receiving the wrong advice that didn't work for me and fit my lifestyle. So when I would go to the pediatrician and say that, I'm not feeling so good, or and the advice that I got from the doctor was just feed the baby. Whenever I said, I'm getting very exhausted. Can I turn to some other methods? I said, no, you have to stick to breastfeeding, even if it's not working out for you. It's the best way for the baby. You have to keep feeding at whatever intervals the baby demands a feed. And I just felt like it was not the right direction for me. But it also made me realize that having the right doctor and having the right guidance is such a game changer today, right? And being able to make that informed decision that it's not just about seeking professional help, but it's also finding the right expert for you and your lifestyle.
So it's very true, Masoom. First of all, like I said, it's not easy being a mother. It's difficult. Anybody who says, oh, you had a baby, oh, you're pregnant again. It's not easy. We need to understand this. There will be times when you are not in your best moods, when you really want a break, when you really want your husband or family to take care of your baby, when you really want somebody else to
take that responsibility,
or somebody at least give you that ear to your problem. Okay, there is a problem. You just want to, take it out. So you want that somebody with you, and you want somebody to tell you it's okay not to be the best mother. And I tell this to my patients also: never ever try to be the best mom, because there is no concept like a best mom. You can never be the best mom. Zaruri nahi hai that you need to be breastfeeding, at every, sort of recommended interval. In case you feel that you're not able to do it, please take help. It could be, another feed or whatever. Of course, try and be, your best, but never at the cost of your well-being. This is very important. we women, especially in India, mothers are put on a pedestal where you need to be doing the best for your baby. Where is that mother inside? You need to be doing the best for that
person
mom
first.
Also.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And like I said, that's why the good support structure, which is a physical structure, the mental and emotional support around a mother is extremely important to make sure that these problems do not happen in the first place. And in case they do, they can be addressed. And most of these problems, by the way, can be taken care of with good rest, good sleep, few nice words to a woman. And of course, things, if they don't work out, there are medical treatments also available for this.
So is there a right age to get pregnant? Is there an ideal age that one should get pregnant?
So that's $1 million question, Masoom. Because there is nothing called as the right age to get pregnant, right? I really feel the right age to get pregnant is when you are mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially ready to have a baby. It's extremely important. You should never have a baby because XYZ is asking you to get pregnant. You should become pregnant when you are ready to have a baby. Now, that's a separate part. We need to understand certain biological parts to this also. How our body is designed to be pregnant. So if you ask me what is the best age medically or biologically to get pregnant, it is early 20s. Now, many of, your viewers may actually get shocked that I'm asking you to get pregnant in your early 20s, but that's how the human body is designed. So we have something which is known as ovarian reserve. So interestingly, when a girl child is born, she may be having 1 to 2 million eggs in her ovary. Now that reserve is also genetically programmed. As that girl reaches early puberty, now she could be having probably 3 to 5 lakh eggs only. Now by the time she is in her 17 or 18 years of age, this number could drop even further down to 2 or 3 lakhs. And by the time when she's in her 40s, for example, this number could be as little as maybe just 10,000 to 20,000 only. So imagine from 2 million, it has come to just 20,000. So we need to be aware of this fact. And by saying that, I don't mean to say that you get pregnant when you hit 20 or 22. Of course, you need to be finding the right man and you need to be settled in a career, whatever. But in case you're planning to delay your pregnancy, you need to talk to your doctor about this and understand what are the options which are available for this in case you want to delay your pregnancy.
So, doctor, I'm pregnant as we speak. So I've been working through both my pregnancies and I've been very active. And it's been shocking the amount of flack I've received for that online. And why is that? I had the privilege of good health during both my pregnancies. I had the green signal from my doctor that, work, do what you need to. But it was received very negatively on the internet, right? And I was just pondering over what is this general consensus? I'd love your expert opinion.
So first of all, Masoom, whatever you're doing is great. Continue doing it till the time you feel comfortable doing it. So I tell this to my patients also. Pregnancy is not a disease. You don't need to be on bed rest for this. And it's like, quote unquote, you need to be active in pregnancy. Now, unless and until somebody is having some medical problems like bleeding or leaking or low-lying placenta or something, some medical reasons for this, a normal person can continue to work till the last day of our pregnancy. I worked till the last hour of my pregnancy and I went straight from labor room to OT for my C-section or whatever. But then it's absolutely okay. In fact, nowadays we tell actually women to do exercises, do yoga, to do everything. And the latest scientific evidence actually says that women who remain active in pregnancy continue to have lesser problems in pregnancy. They have an easy delivery, they have an easy post-delivery recovery, even if they have a C-section. it's good to be physically active. So whatever you're doing is great.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. And what about, is there an ideal weight that one should maintain while they're pregnant? Right? I've heard and mildly experienced body shaming during pregnancy. There's a lot of pressure on how much weight gain is okay, how much is not okay.
Okay, so there's nothing called as an ideal weight. But what is ideal weight gain? That is important. And that also varies from the pre-pregnancy weight gain. In case somebody is already on a higher weight side, we want them to be gaining little lesser weight in pregnancy. While somebody who was on a thinner side at the beginning of the pregnancy, she can safely gain more weight. But on an average, we expect a woman to be gaining anything between 9 to 14 kgs of weight gain. And, you have to understand it is weight gain. It is not fat gain, right? There is a lot which actually makes up this total of 9 to 14 kgs. Of course, you have 3 kgs of baby. There is baby, there's amniotic fluid, there's placenta. Do you know a woman who's full-term pregnant has about 2.5 to 3 liters of extra blood which is circulating in her body? The breasts also gain weight, little bit of fat gain. But actually, these are the good things which happen in pregnancy. So in case somebody is not gaining this much of weight gain, we as doctors are really worried. Why is she not gaining weight? In fact, lesser weight gain could be a sign of a pregnancy where the baby's growth is not really good. So, why would somebody shame a woman in pregnancy? Not at all. We should be proud of that weight gain.
So something that I've heard a lot as well is, oh, you're pregnant again. Just wondering, is there an ideal age gap that should be there? Is an ideal time frame that you would like to wait for? That's my reaction when I read the comments.
So first of all, nobody has a right to tell anybody else when should you have a baby, how many kids should you have, and what should be the difference. Of course, the only person who can give you a little bit of perspective is a doctor, because that doctor knows what is best for you. So you are pregnant again, great, very, very good. And the ideal difference between two pregnancies, I say, is at least 2 years, because that's the time the body takes to sort of recover the previous pregnancy, whatever changes happen. And this much of a time you should give to the first baby before the next baby comes. But of course, I have delivered women in one calendar year, 2 babies also, one in January, one in December. So I've done that also. So it's okay in case a woman gets pregnant and she decides to continue the pregnancy. The medical help is available to make sure that things happen in a right and a safe manner. So great, Masoom. Don't listen to whatever everybody else is saying.
So when is the right age for a woman to visit a gynac for the first time?
So I feel in today's time when there is so much happening, the right age to get to visit a gynecologist is when she gets her periods for the first time. So that's when a mother has to be proactive in bringing the daughter to the doctor. This is the time, somebody medically has to explain the mom and the daughter both what are periods, how she should be educated to take care of the menstrual hygiene, and how she should look after herself. This is the time a lot of hormonal changes are happening. She might be gaining more weight. There could be body image issues. In case a girl at this age is of a higher weight, she's not exercising, she's eating bad food, she's likely to get hormonal disturbances like PCOD and thyroid and other things. So it's important that this visit emphasizes her the importance of good diet, a physically active lifestyle. And then, of course, the next best stage when she should visit a doctor is when she decides to become sexually active. Previously we used to call it as a premarital counseling, but today marriage and being sexually active are two different things. So whenever a girl decides to be sexually active, that's the next important milestone. She should visit a doctor, understand what is the best contraception for her, how she should protect herself against the sexually transmitted infections. And of course, next is when she gets pregnant, and then when she decides to get pregnant, and then during pregnancy, and then middle-aged, and then menopause.
So I think building that relationship is important, right? Taking that first step, going when you first start getting your period, and then probably even going back to the same doctor again and again, because they understand your body and they're able to treat you better. But at the same time, there are so many topics relating to women's health and women's bodies that are brushed under the carpet, that are considered taboo. And one of them that I want to talk about today is menstruation. Why is there so much shame attached to it, especially in India?
It's so strange that even till today people talk like this. I tell this to people that there can't be anything more pure and sacred than having a period. Having a period actually equals to the power of procreation.
Yes.
This means that you can give birth now. You are capable of bringing about a new life. How can something which is related to this fact, how can it be impure? How can it be dirty? How can it be shameful? In very, very old times, the periods they were supposed to be sacred. It's only during the midway somehow, women were, told that they are dirty, and they were put in different houses and different rooms or whatever. It's still very, very sad in case the people think like this.
I agree with you, doctor, but I also believe it comes from the fact that we're a largely patriarchal society. Right? So I think any discussion on women's body and health has been attached with shame. We've been talking about periods with a negative connotation for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
It's been related to words like dirty, like yuck, like ew, like, it's something that's been shunned. It's been something that you should be embarrassed about. From the time that we got our period, it's something that we need to hide. We need to hide our pad into our pocket and walk away with it. And like you rightly said, there was that shift in the middle, because I know they were considered sacred back in the day.
Yeah.
And then we found ourselves in this space, and I know it even occurs today, where I know women are not allowed to enter the kitchen, not allowed to, take part in religious, spiritual activities, not allowed to share a bed with their husband is something that I'm aware of, that someone I know actually does in today's day and age as well. And where is this coming from?
So like you rightly said, Masoom, this is basically the patriarchal mindset, which is still continuing. But fortunately, things are changing. You and I belong to more like the metro cities. And I agree, even in metros, some people must be facing this in their families. But things are changing. People are talking about this. We are speaking as doctors on forums. You, of course, you have initiated today this podcast where we are talking about this. So it's only when the key opinion leaders talk about it without any fear, without any shame, without any negative connotation to this, then people will talk more about it. I probe my patients when people say, I'm down. I said, why are you down? Where did this word come from? Why does it make you feel that you're down? Remember, you are never down. Why should a woman say that I'm down? People say I'm chumming. I said, what is this funny word? Why chumming? Ye kahan se aaya? Why? Why? It's, when you are not ready to speak the word, the people around you would make you feel like this. So women now have to come forward. Women need to regain their control over their reproductive reproductive destinies. And, take the control basically in their hand again and say the word proudly, I am having my periods.
Absolutely.
That's
so
it.
I come from a family where the men are incredible in my family. We've always had very open conversations. They've always been very supportive. And there was this one time I remember when I was much younger, probably late teens, and I called up my brother and I said, I was at a friend's house and I said, listen, I've got my period and I need you to buy some pads for me. And my friend was appalled at what I had done. She was appalled that I could talk to a male figure in my family so openly about a topic that she considered a taboo, right? And I said, I don't find any discomfort. This is an okay conversation to have. This is normal. This is something that we go through. And like you rightly said, it's the phenomena that makes the survival of our species possible. We've got to be proud of it. I read this, I watched this amazing TED Talk which actually said that menstruating is our superpower.
Absolutely.
And we're not owning it enough.
Yes, we are not owning it enough. And we need to be coming forward and reclaiming it back to ourselves. That this is our power and we are proud of it. So
one way
who's
that you
watching
said,
this should now onwards never say that I'm down or I'm chumming or whatever XYZ words.
Yeah, take it head on. I also think what's really important, as a mom of a young boy, I think it's so important for us sons to be educated. Because they are the ones that I remember in school, right? Which is an uncomfortable environment for any young girl. And that's most young girls would get their periods while they're in school. You're spending most of your day there. And the boys will always turn and, giggle about it or snicker about it or have a comment. And I think if that could change as well, right? If there could be respect attached to it. If there could be acceptance in terms of normalcy, in terms of, not having to be ashamed of it or hiding your pad and going to the school bathroom, that could be a huge change as well.
Yes. We've been speaking on our channel also how to talk to your son about periods. Daughter se to sab baat karte hain.
So how can one?
So first of all, make the conversations around periods, sex or pregnancy very, very normal and natural. And make it a part of your day-to-day conversations. Like it could be simple as, a couple hugging in front of the young children. I've seen, in front of the young children, you should not be doing this. It should come as a very natural thing, very normal thing. In case a mother is getting periods, she can definitely tell her son, look, today I'm not feeling the best. Today, can you go with Papa to get, pads for me? She can actually explain it to the son when the son is about 7 or 8 years old, that this is what a period is. So that right from the childhood age, the boy understands that the mom is having period, the sister is having period, and it's absolutely normal for them to have these days in their months. So, the son can be told, okay, make something nice for the mother, heat a glass of milk or maybe some coffee or something for the mother, so that the child also feels that he is helping the mom. And when he does that, when he gets married, when he has a girlfriend or a wife, he would be probably doing all these things with a lot of happiness for the girlfriend or for the wife as well.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That's a great way of looking at it. What about, common myths to do with menstruation? Can you talk to us about some to do with your periods? Do your cycles really sync with your friends?
No. This is absolutely untrue. I know internet is, buzz with cycle syncing, but nahi hota hai. It's just coincidental. It is, the cycles, they start in the brain, at the level of the brain. So the entire, we have what is known as a HPO axis, hypothalamic pituitary and ovarian axis. So the story of the period actually starts from the brain.
Wow.
Yeah, so the certain hormones are released from the hypothalamus, then pituitary, and from there the hormones, they act on the ovary, they release estrogen and progesterone, and finally the periods happen. So syncing of the periods do not happen. Then we spoke about it, that impure, I mean, a woman is not impure, she's not dirty. She can go to the kitchen, she can bake, she can cook, she can touch the plants, she can obviously go to the religious places and pray or whatever. I mean,
can we talk about that a little bit more, doctor? The part about, I read this statistic that about 85% of women in India are currently going through either one. Not being allowed to step into a religious place because they're on their period, not being allowed to enter the kitchen because they're on their period, having to wash their bed sheets after having their period, not being allowed to share their bed with a partner and joint families during their period, not being able to eat in the same utensils as their family members during their period, and so many more. And the statistic was absolutely alarming that 85% of women go through at least one of these even today. But as a medical expert, is there shame attached to it? Is a period dirty? Is it considered?
So first of all, to all these questions, Masoom, the answer is no. There is no scientific truth in any one of these. So there is nothing impure about this. There's nothing dirty about the period blood. In fact, the period blood is simply the shedding of the endometrium. It's actually a pure blood. There is no infection. There's no bacteria. There's no virus. There's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that blood. It's actually very sterile blood.
So it's not unclean.
It's not unclean. It's pure. And a woman can definitely go to the kitchen. She should rest only if she feels like doing it. Probably in olden times, I really think probably, women were probably given a chance to rest in those 5 days and hence were told, okay, just rest. But probably some people have taken it, some people with patriarchal mindset have taken this as a way to, subdue women. But scientifically, there's no truth in that. And fortunately, today, women in bigger cities, they continue to work, they continue to go to office. And once again, awareness of everyone, including women themselves, the families, it's very, very important that we talk openly about this, so that everyone is educated. Only then women also will demand all this. In case you yourself continue to feel like this, how would you demand justice from this? You yourself need to be convinced about this first. And that would happen only with knowledge. And with that only comes the empowerment.
So, doctor, if there's one piece of advice you could give to women in relation to their mental health, reproductive health, and in general being more aware of women's health, what would that be?
So most important is be proud of what you are. Be proud of being a woman. Remember, we are special. And we are truly special because we have this capability to give birth, to give life. So be proud of being a woman. And whatever God has given us, take every step to make sure that you are mentally, physically and emotionally healthy, which means look after yourself. As women, we are programmed, especially in our country, to always take care of others. But remember, the care has to start from you. So learn to look after you yourself first. So whether it is your physical health, your diet, your exercise, your sleep time, the me time, do things what you want to do. And never do anything at the cost of your physical or mental health. And remember, you are the most important thing.
Thank you. And I quite agree.
Thank you very much, Masoom, for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.